You know, for my money, I think most people, when they think of video games, they think of stuff on consoles. Whether you're talking about the NES, the Atari 2600, the PlayStation 5, or the Xbox Series X, they're thinking about games that hook up to a TV and are played that way. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Square Pegs. I'm Jay. We're not talking about those games today. Not exactly. We're talking about handheld games. We're talking about some of my favorite things out there. I love handheld gaming. I think it might be my preferred way to play games. And I want to look at fantastic handheld games that are ports of classic console games, and in some cases are even better. And we're starting things off on the Game Boy Color with one of my favorite action RPGs. Crystalis on the Game Boy Color is one of those just fantastic ports of a game that just works in every single way. Like, I already loved the NES release of this game, but to be able to play it on the Game Boy Color and to have it be completely full-featured and play just as well as the original is really kind of magical in the grand scheme of things. And we had a lot of games like that release on the GBC that were really faithful adaptations of NES games. Crystalis just happens to be one of my favorites. If you haven't played it, this is an action RPG where you're basically on a quest to go around and solve the plot. I don't want to give away anything here as far as the storyline goes, but it's a really fun title. It has some excellent gameplay elements to it and some just really well-designed dungeons and levels and just an overall world map that it's fun to explore. And the enemies in the game are creative as well. And since it's an action RPG, it's not something where you're going to be like shuffled off to a turn-based battle or anything like that. It's all done in real time on the world map, and you do have to make sure you're not going to get attacked by multiple enemies at the same time. Otherwise, you're going to get turned into dog meat. Really do like this one, though. One of my favorites on the GBC and an absolutely fantastic game that folks really should play. Okay, I need to just kind of straight up say this real quick as we talk about here Klonoa on the Game Boy Advance Empire of Dreams. It's not a port. I need to be upfront and honest. There's going to be a lot of sequels in this list because I kind of lost the plot when I was doing the intro, so forgive me for that. I do apologize. But with Klonoa Empire of Dreams, you get a fantastic 2D platformer, which is a continuation of a game that was released called Klonoa Moonlight Museum on the WonderSwan, which was a 2D platformer. Now, the original Klonoa games on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 were 3D platformers, and they were fantastic. I really do think that the character and the series came into its own when it became a 2D platformer, though, on the GBA. I've never played Moonlight Museum on the WonderSwan personally, but it was something when the GBA version released, I wanted to try it. I wanted to play it. I liked the original PlayStation release, and I love the Game Boy Advance version. Absolutely spectacular game. Absolutely wonderful experience. There are ports available for the Klonoa series, not this one in particular, but the Fantasy Reverie series on the Switch and other modern consoles, which released in 2022. They are absolutely magnificent. They are worth playing, but if you have the opportunity to play this one, you should do it because it's magnificent. This is my favorite version of Donkey Kong. I think it's the best version of Donkey Kong. It is a wonderful adaptation of the arcade original or the NES original, wherever you played it first. Plus you get the wonderful addition and introduction of the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, because that's where all of those games got their inspiration from, is right here on Donkey Kong 94 on the original Game Boy. This game is magnificent. It's just one of those wonderfully magical, kind of like perfect moment in time games that I think if it had released earlier, it probably wouldn't be as good just because people weren't taking as high advantage of what the Game Boy was able to do at the time. If it released later, people would have overlooked it just because it was late in the lifespan of what the Game Boy was doing. And I really appreciate its existence because not only did it give us that fantastic arcade adaptation, it gave us an incredible puzzle platformer that still persists to this day, almost 30 years after its original release. Actually, over 30 years after its original release now. Love this game, though. Absolutely fantastic title. And one of the first ones when I started collecting Game Boy games, I made sure I picked up because it's so damn good. The PSP had a ton of fantastic titles on it, but you know I'm going to be talking Mega Man if I have the opportunity to do so. And Mega Man Powered Up on the PSP is a really clever game. So you get two versions of the original Mega Man. You can either play the OG version, the one that looks like it was on the NES, or you can play Powered Up, which is a version of Mega Man 1 that has some additions to it. So you get the original 6 Robot Masters, as well as Oil Man and Time Man. There's voice acting in the game. The entire look of it has been completely redesigned from top to bottom. It's a really, really fun take on the original Mega Man, which is a game in the entire pantheon of Mega Man. That's the one that probably needs the most TLC given to it, because as much as I love it and as thankful as I am for Mega Man 1 giving me one of my favorite franchises of all time, it just doesn't really hold up in comparison to every other Mega Man game from that original series. This one, though, this cleans up a lot of the messes. This one makes it a lot more approachable, makes it a lot more user-friendly, and it looks fantastic. If you played this one, let me know in the comments below. The Game Boy Advance got a ton of fantastic console ports, and this one came out of the blue for me because I did not expect it to be nearly as good as it is. And this is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the single greatest ports on the GBA. This is Baldur's Gate. This is a wonderful interpretation of the classic RPG on PC. It works incredibly well. Like, it is just so tailored for that system and is just designed in such a way that it makes it just so accessible and so easy to play on the GBA that I really didn't expect that, because the GBA, its biggest flaw is the fact that the screen is so small. And if you're playing on the GBA SP, the overall just device is minuscule in comparison to other handhelds. And there's a lot of information packed into Baldur's Gate that you need to take in from menus and things like that. And the team that did this just worked at it and made it to get to a point where it was just accessible and approachable and unbelievably well balanced and playable. It is so much fun, and it is one of the greatest RPGs on a system that is just renowned for great RPGs. Granted, this is not a turn-based RPG or anything like that, but it is something that I can't speak glowingly enough about it. It's absolutely incredible. All right, now look, this isn't as pretty as the Genesis release, and it's not as probably full-functioned as the Genesis release or anything like that, but Streets of Rage 2 on the Game Gear is a thing that I cannot tell you enough how good it is. It is an absolutely wonderful beat-em-up experience. It plays like a dream. It runs so well. It looks so good. And it is such a fantastic signature experience for Sega's initial handheld. Now, you can play the original Streets of Rage 2 on the Sega Nomad if you really want to, but that's not really a Sega handheld. That's just a Genesis with a screen built into it. But the Game Gear, that's another story entirely, which I mean, I guess if you really want to get technical, this is just a Master System with a screen built into it, but I don't want to hear it. We're going with it. It doesn't play the original Master System cartridges. I do love this one. It is such a fun title, and it's such a really unique take on a classic beat-em-up like Streets of Rage 2 to kind of like scale it back a little bit from its original conception and its original design and its original release to make something that works on a handheld. It's fantastic. This is a port of both a console game and an arcade game. So Baseball Stars originated on the NeoGeo MVS. It was an arcade game. There was also an NES port, which a lot of my generation is more familiar with than the arcade version. Both versions are great. This version on the NeoGeo Pocket Color is one of my favorites, though, because it's a fantastic portable version of the NES game, and it just plays so ridiculously well. Like, this is a classic experience. It's two-button baseball. Everyone knows how to play it. Everyone understands kind of how it's developed and how it's laid out and what you need to do in order to be successful at it. But I can't get over how incredible a game it is and how well it plays on the NeoGeo Pocket Color. Already one of my all-time favorite consoles, handhelds, any kind you want to look at it. Whether it's handheld or hooked up to a TV, the NeoGeo Pocket Color ranks towards the top for me just because I love it so much. And to get a signature experience from SNK that is one of my favorite sports games of all time, and for have it to be as lovingly crafted as it is on the NeoGeo Pocket Color, you can't top it. Brilliant game, plays so well, and if you love baseball, this one needs to be on your list. Less a port and more a sequel. This is Gunstar Superheroes, and I'm putting it on here just because it's close enough. It kind of falls into like the Donkey Kong 94 territory for me, where the gameplay is similar enough and close enough that I'm gonna count it here. Your mileage may vary on that. If you disagree, that's totally fine. It is a sequel though, straight up. Like, not even on a technicality is it a sequel. It's totally a sequel. But if you love the original Gunstar Heroes on the Sega Genesis, the Game Boy Advance version, Gunstar Superheroes, is absolutely magnificent and one of the strongest games on the GBA. The look of the game is spectacular. The gameplay is frenetic and just fast and so much fun to get into and just so wonderful to play on a portable device. And Don't sleep on the Game Boy player either on the GameCube and popping this one in, because it's absolutely magnificent. But just a wonderful port of a game, a wonderful interpretation of a classic game, sequelized to be not the original, but I'm still counting it. I don't care. This is the game that sold me a 3DS. I was not on board with the 3DS when it was originally announced. I did not see the point of it. I was convinced that all I ever needed was a regular DS because I thought it was a fantastic little console, and there was no need to have it in 3D. And then when I was working at a school down in Florida, my buddy Rob brought in his 3DS, and he says, you need to try this out and see how good it is. And I was absolutely blown away by what Street Fighter IV 3D offered, because it was a faithful adaptation of the Street Fighter IV console game. It looked incredible on the 3DS. The 3D application was fantastically done by Capcom, and it was just a dream to play. I love fighting games, and for a handheld to get a killer AAA fighting game right from jump, basically, and for it to be as good as it was, and to still be great to this day, even compared to other games that have released since, that's a testament to both the console and the developers. Street Fighter IV 3D is one of the best games on the 3DS, and everyone should play it. Going on the record and saying I absolutely hate the naming conventions for the Super Mario Brothers games on the Game Boy Advance. Super Mario Advance for Super Mario Brothers 3, which to me should be Super Mario Advance 7. It's so annoying. This is absolutely spectacular, an absolutely incredible experience from top to bottom. First off, it's Mario 3. You know it's great. It's a wonderful experience already. But there are improvements in here where you're going to get voices. So Charles Martinet's voice is actually present in this game. You can scan e-reader cards, which is pretty cool. If you have an e-reader and you have the cards for it, you can get extra levels. But you also just get a graphical touch-up and a fantastic version of one of the single greatest games of all time. I absolutely cannot recommend this one enough. I got really lucky when I found this one. This was one that someone was just getting rid of their Game Boy Advance games, and this was in there, and I was like, oh my god, yes, absolutely. It plays so incredibly well. It looks so good. It's one of the best versions of Super Mario Bros. 3 ever released, and it's one of my favorite GBA games. Just a few of my favorite handheld ports of classic console games. What are your favorites? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure there's ones I overlooked. I don't know every library exhaustively, so please let me know. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you really enjoyed it, consider subscribing. I'd love to have you stick around. And until next time, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.